Hey guys, so far you've learned how to use data types, make comparisons, and even control how your code behaves with if statements. Today we're taking a huge step forward using functions, one of the most powerful features in JavaScript and all other programming languages. So let's get into it. What is a function? A function is a block of code that does something specific. You can call it whenever you want to run that code, and even send it information to work with. Think of it like a coffee machine. You push a button, that calls the function. It does something for you, it makes the coffee, and maybe gives you something back, the coffee. So let's create a simple function. In JavaScript, to create a function, you simply type the word function. So this will declare the function, and we're gonna give it a name, say hello. So here we're declaring the function, and here we're naming the function. And then you open parentheses, then open brackets, and we want to console log the string hello there. Make this capital. So here we're looking at a function called say hello, which when we call will execute the code inside the brackets. So let's call the function say hello, and you have to call it like this. Do not forget the parentheses here. So now that we've called the function, we see hello there here. So basically, when we call it using say hello, when we call the function this way, it runs the code inside the brackets. Okay, so let's comment this out and move to functions with parameters. So functions can take parameters. Think of these as inputs. You define the name of the input in the function and provide the value when calling it. So let's have a look at that. So we declare a function, call it greet, open parentheses, and then we want to have a parameter or an input, which in this case called name. So this here is the parameter inside the function greet, which is also the input. Then open brackets, and let's console log hi, comma, space, concatenate the variable name, concatenate, and then the exclamation mark. Okay, so again, what we're doing here is we have declared a function, we gave it a name called greet, and this function takes in a parameter or an input, which in this case we're calling it name. So the difference between what we've done here and what we did before is that here we didn't take any input, we didn't take any parameter, while in this function greet we do take a parameter which we called name. Okay, but still nothing is going to happen so far, because remember, whenever you declare a function, nothing will happen until you call the function, and that's when you're going to see the code inside the brackets get executed. So how do we call the function again? So we're going to do pretty much what we did here, but the only difference now is that we can pass an argument. So let's do that now. So we go here and we say greet. So we call the function. Remember, you need the parentheses. And now we want to pass a string for the name. So let's start with Sarah. And you can see here, now the function has executed the code inside of it. So this code has executed now. And whatever argument we provided here, which is Sarah, when we called the function, so Sarah now has become the name, and this name is the same here. So you can imagine you've got Sarah here at the moment, then Sarah here, and then Sarah here. And that's why we see hi Sarah. Okay, so let's try to pass another argument, Leo, and let's comment this out. So now we see Leo. So again, same thing happened. We've got the argument here, which we passed to the greet function. And remember, we've got the name parameter. So Leo replaced, or actually name has now been assigned the value Leo. And because we've got name here, we're using it inside the function. And that's how we see the output in the console log, hi Leo. So let's comment this code out and move to returning a value from a function. So instead of just logging something, a function can also return a value. That means we can store it, log it, or even use it in another calculation. So for example, let's declare a function, call it add, open parentheses. We pass the first parameter in this case, which is x, then the second parameter, which is y. We open the brackets, and then we want to return something from the function when we call it, which in this case, we just want to return x plus y. Okay, again, remember, nothing happens. All we did here is we declared a function. We gave it a name, and then we passed two parameters, x, the first one, and y, the second one. Okay, so let's now go and declare a variable called result, which is going to be the function add. And then now we want to pass the arguments. So the first argument here is 5, and the second argument is 3. Again, nothing happens because we haven't called the function yet. So let's call the function. We use console log in this case, and then we simply want to call result, and we see 8. Now notice here we just put result. We didn't do this because we have already result in this case equals this function name with these parentheses. So all you have to do in this case is just put the name result here. Okay, so let's think again what's going on here. So we declared a function. We gave the function a name, which in this case is add. We passed two parameters. The first one is x. The second one is y. Then inside the brackets, we are returning. That's very important. You want to return something from the function here. And what do we want to return? We want to return x plus y. Okay, and the order of these is very important. So when we did here, when we basically declared result here and assigned it the function add, so that's the same thing. And then here we have passed the first argument, which is 5, and then the second argument, which is 3. So the order is very important here. 5 is basically x, and 3 is basically y. Okay, so if we have here something like 3 and 5, so right now, for example, 3 is x and 5 is y, or y is 5 and x is 3. Okay, so then we called the function by simply logging result. So this is going to trigger this function here, and then that's how we see 8 in the end. Okay, so let's comment this code out and move to why use functions in the first place. Well, functions make your code reusable and easier to read. So instead of repeating code, you write it once and just call it when you need it. So let's take a look at another example, we want to declare a function and call it getArea. We open the parentheses, we pass the first parameter, which is width, comma, the second parameter, which is height. We open the brackets, and we want to return the width times the height. So now the function is ready for us to use, but we'll only execute this code here when we call the function. So again, let's call the function console log, and then we want the function, which is getArea. Then we want to pass the following arguments: 5, which is basically width at the moment, comma, 10, and 10 represents height, and what we see here is 50. So 5 times 10, so it's returning this, okay? It's returning 5 times 10. Okay, let's comment this out, and now we want to console log another. Okay, so again, getArea, open parentheses, pass the first argument, 3, and then the second argument, 7, and you get 21. Okay, so let's comment these out and move to the practice exercise. And here, I'd like you to create a function called double number. So that would be the name of the function that takes a number as input or parameter. So that's the same thing, input or parameter. Then inside the function, you need to return the number multiplied by 2. Then call the function with different values and log the result. Okay, so pause the video now, have a go at it, and come back for the solution. Okay, so here's an example of the solution. So we declare a function and we call it double number. This is the name of the function. We open the parentheses, then we pass the parameter or the input, num in this case. You can use anything here you want, but num or number makes sense in this case. And then what we want to do is here we want to return the number multiplied by 2. So you want to return this num here multiplied by 2. And then you want to call the function with different values and log the result. So we saw how we do that many times before. So all you have to do is console log. Then you want to call the function. This is the function, open parentheses, very important. Pass the argument that you want. In this case, let's just pass 4, and we see 8, because again, 4, which is num, 4 times 2 is 8, so it's returning 8. Okay, let's copy this. Okay, and let's pass another one, 10, and then we get 20. So that's it, guys. You did it. Now you know how to write and use functions, which is a huge step forward in your coding journey. In the next episode, we'll explore arrays, which is a way to store multiple values in a single variable. If you're enjoying this series so far, don't forget to subscribe and keep practicing. See you in the next one.